Hello, Legacy Builders, and welcome back to another episode of the Legacy Pregame Podcast. I am Marcella Mollon-Williams, behavioral financial advisor, mindset coach, and legacy strategist for first generation legacy wealth builders. And today I am beyond honored to have a powerhouse guest with us, someone that I know you will learn so much from, Dr. Will Moreland. Let me just tell you a little bit about him based off of his experience in this world, which is remarkable. Dr. Will Moreland is a world renowned speaker, leadership strategist, and multimillionaire entrepreneur, originally from Compton, California, now based in Phoenix, Arizona. As the founder of Moreland Training and Associates, he leads one of the country's top firms in leadership development and company cultural transformation. A combat military veteran turned award winning business leader, Dr. Moreland is known for helping executives and organizations grow through high impact leadership frameworks centered on civility, clarity, and culture. I love that. He has spoken on stages across the globe, from corporate boardrooms to Capitol Hill. And in addition to consultant, he's built several successful companies across real estate, publishing, media, and investments. He's also committed to philanthropy, mentoring youth in underserved communities through education and empowerment. But most importantly, Dr. Moreland is married to Dr. Christy Moreland, and to almost 3 decades, right? And he is also a father, a grandfather. And Dr. Moreland is driven by faith, purpose, and impact. And what I love about him is that he practices what he preaches. So join me in welcoming Dr. Will Moreland. Welcome, Dr. Will.
Marcella, thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to our conversation, and I just want to start off by saying thank you for everything that you do, you and your brother, the platform that you have created for individuals like me to come and share our information, our knowledge, and our wisdom. So I am honored to be here. So thank you so much.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And the honor truly is mine. I'll share it with you a little bit, but I would take all the honor for you being here. I have to start with saying that, there's some people that you know of before you actually know them. And you are one of those individuals that you know how it is on social media. You just kind of people just pop on there and you see certain things. And I have to tell you right now, my algorithm loves you. You show up, and I think because I'm intentionally blocking out a lot of the noise and filtering into and telling the algorithm what I want to see, and they just must know that I love your content because for the short times I'm able to jump on there you are with something either just full of wisdom and or funny. And I love both. Those are two things I have to have in my life every day: wisdom and jokes. So I'm grateful for that. And then the other thing that I really love about you and why I'm so happy for you to be a guest on this podcast is because you exemplify legacy, specifically in the way that I define legacy, which is how others will experience your existence. And you do that with such intentionality, the type of intention that is absolutely needed to pass on and to live and lead an impactful legacy in all aspects of your life. You allow people to really feel a certain way. And your presence with individuals, what I've noticed is that you stay with people long after you leave a room. And that's going to speak volumes, long after you're no longer here physically. It's no doubt that your legacy will be left. So I'm grateful that you are here with us and that you have that impact on people. So thank you. I just had a I wanted to just share that and let you know personally.
I really do. I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Well, let's jump into some questions because I really want our listeners to get to know a little bit about you. So let's start off with your powerful story because you have such a wonderful story, from growing up in Compton to serving in the military and then becoming this global leader and first generation millionaire. So Can you tell us a little bit about your early experiences, how they shaped you, how they shaped the way you think, and how you were able to use those experience to be who you are today?
Yeah, definitely. And thank you so much for this opportunity once again. Growing up in Compton, California, it was a very unique situation. I'll just say that back in the early '80s, if you know anything about that area, Compton was literally said to be the worst city in America because of the gang violence, because of the drug epidemic. We were marked as the worst city in America. But at the same time, I was being raised by this phenomenal Black woman who was my grandma, Dr. Polly A. Gray. And so I tell people it was the best of times and it was the worst of times. Inside the house, I'm getting loved, I'm getting nurtured, I'm being educated in my faith, I'm being educated in civility. My grandmother was very engaged in the community. She was very engaged in politics. So there were always different politicians at our house. Our house was kind of the echo center of where local politicians would come. I can remember that our home was the home where back in the days, this is going to date me, but you would literally go to people's house to vote. Like they would set up the voting booths inside the house, and our house was one of those homes. And as I've gotten older and I reflect back to my upbringing, this street that I lived on, 166th Street, was predominantly older Black women, usually grandmothers, that were housing their children and even their grandchildren. So when I think about it, it was my grandmother, next door was Miss Knox, down the street was Miss Ada, across the street was Miss Kennedy. And it was these strong Black women that created this power system, this ecosystem of support. Now, when I was younger, I didn't understand it. I was like, when someone would come and want to borrow sugar or borrow some eggs, I was like, Grandma, why are we giving our eggs away? But these women had created this ecosystem that said we're going to support each other so each of us can survive. And so even though the grandkids, we were complaining about others begging from us, these women had created this ecosystem. And as I get older, I realized just how powerful it was. When I think about my grandmother and when you think about the history, specifically here in America, this was the early '70s. These women had purchased homes. My grandmother in the early '70s was a homeowner. And if historically, the rights of Black women and the rights of just Black people in general to be able to, I want to say, women in themselves weren't able to have their own checking accounts until like the late '60s or even early '70s. So I didn't realize it. I'm a young kid. I didn't realize how powerful this was for a Black woman to own a house, right? And so that was my major upbringing. I had, on the outside, it was gangs, it was drugs, but my grandmother was teaching me what was possible. As a matter of fact, I saw my grandma at the age of 75 get her doctorate degree. And so she was very into education. And so when I see someone, at 75 still in school, still striving to become better, it really left a mark on me that I really didn't know it was being left on me, right? It's through observation I saw it, and later on I could appreciate it, how valuable education was. And just growing up in Compton, our politicians were Black, my school teachers were Black, the community was Black, and so I saw leadership from a healthy lens early on. And then I had the opportunity to join the military. And when I joined the military, this gave me the opportunity to now get a global view. I always tell people growing up, I had a very sheltered view, but once I joined the military, I was able to get a global view because I was now meeting people literally from all across the United States and all across the world. And so my first duty station was in Germany. So if you can imagine a kid growing up in Compton, California, and then going 8,000 miles away to a country that I knew nothing about historically. I just remembered, World War II and Hitler and things like that. But, I wasn't cultured at that time. I didn't know the significance and the historical ramifications of even a Black person going to Germany at that time. And but it was a game changer. It was a game changer for me because in the military is where I began to understand the importance of discipline, understand the importance of structure, and having a vision for your life. And that's kind of where the journey began to really take hold for me. And I'll stop there because I'm older now, so the story gets longer. But I'll stop there. But the Army really was the place that really was the game changer for me.
Okay, so that there were so many great things there, as I'm just here writing, what you're saying. But so going back to growing up with your grandmother and all that you experienced there, what stood out to me while you were in this environment, as you mentioned, considered the worst place in
Yeah,
America, you were given a gift of
yeah,
exposure. You were exposed to power in a sense,
yeah. Hmm.
leadership, ownership, education. Like those are some amazing things to be exposed to at a young age. And then you move on to the military and you're given this global view of the world. Again, you're now this exposure is stretching beyond all, more than you can even imagine. You, as you mentioned about discipline, structure, and that vision for your life. And I think back at all that it takes to really be a legacy builder, which you
Hmm.
clearly are. And we'll touch more about where you are now so the listeners will know. But I would love to know how how you really took everything that you went through in those early years and created that vision for your life. It can also be like I think of the term highly the book highly the 7 habits of highly effective people,
Hmm.
right? And my favorite is begin with the end in mind. That's the legacy. I feel like that's the legacy builder anthem right there. You have to. That's something that has to be drilled in you. You have to understand that's how you operate, move through life. So, can you touch on that end in mind and tie in how your beginnings played a part in how you view life?
Yeah, that is so powerful. That's one of my favorite principles from that book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Start with the end in mind. And I want to say, I want to share this little bit of my story because I think it would be advantage to those that are listening to us. So before I got to the military, the way I got to the military, I found myself in some trouble. And before I got to the military, literally, I was on my way to jail. And I called this gentleman, the judge, I called him my first disruptor. And I was in his court, and he looked at me and he said, Mr. Moreland, if I sentence you right now, you just turned 18. If I sentence you right now, this will stay with you for the rest of your life. What I want for you to do is, I'm going to allow you to go back home. And in 2 weeks, I want you to come back into my court and tell me, give me a reason why I shouldn't put you in one of our nice facilities, AKA jail. And I'll be honest with you, I left that court and I told my friends, well, we're just about to party for 2 weeks because I don't have a reason to really give him. So I'm getting ready to go off for a little time. So this is really going to be my going away tour, right? And as God would have it, 2 days before I was supposed to go back to court, I met my second disruptor, a gentleman by the name of Corey Oliver. As I was walking in the mall, Corey came up to me and he asked me, one of those questions that literally transformed my life. And I don't know if those that are listening to us, if you've ever had a moment in your life where you didn't fully understand it, but you realized that this was a moment, this was an opportunity, this was a transitional, pivotal point in your life. And for me, that's what happened. The question Corey asked me was, have you ever thought about going to the Army? Have you ever thought about going to the Army? And to be honest with you, I hadn't, but I knew in that moment, without fully understanding what I was doing, I looked Corey in the eyes and I said, yeah, man, come on, let's do it. And he looked at me with such a surprised look, because later on, Corey shared with me, he says, man, I have walked up and down this mall for a year and a half, and I have not put one person in the military. Because where I come from, young men didn't join the military. We were even encouraged not to join the military. We were told, the military was no place for a Black person. But I knew for me, I said, you know what? The judge would probably go for this and think this was a great idea. So I shared with Corey my story. I said, hey, man, I'm doing court in 2 days. I don't know how this impacts it, but I'm willing to sign up if you're willing to go to court with me and let the judge know I'm doing this. Corey then says, come on, man. Yep, we have some we have a plan for this. And so he goes to court with me. I tell the judge, I say, I just signed up with the military. Here's my recruiter to adjudicate that. And he said, he looked at me, the judge looked at me and said, Mr. Moreland, I think that you've made a wonderful choice. I hope the best for you, wish the best for you, hope to never see you again. And so I joined the military. And now, and I think this is so key, I was 8,000 miles away from Compton, California. In Compton, I had a certain mindset. I had a certain way that I dealt with things. So even though I was 8,000 miles away in a brand new country, I still had a mindset as if, and this is so important for those that are listening, because you can have a goal and you can have vision and you can have aspirations, but if you don't have the mindset to match it, it'll never come to fruition for you. Because as a man thinketh, so is he. As a man thinketh, so is he. And so, even though I was in this new location, I was in this new opportunity to change my life, to create and start building this legacy, I was still speaking and thinking like I was in Compton, California. And so, when I was in the military, the first 6 months there, I almost got kicked out. But then that's when I met my third disruptor, a gentleman by the name of Command Sergeant Major Babs. I was getting ready to get kicked out the military, and I had to go stand before him. He was the lead NCO, the highest ranking NCO on our post, and I had to go before him to plead my case. And he looked at me and he says, Moreland, I've read your file. I know that you come from Compton. He says, if I kick you out my army right now and send you back to Compton, what do you think will happen to you? Where do you think your life will end up? And I said, Sergeant Major, probably in jail or probably dead. And he said, you're absolutely right. So this is what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to give you an opportunity. I'm going to allow you, I'm not going to kick you out, but I'm going to allow you, because I think there's something in you. I'm going to allow you to come work directly for me. And so I had the opportunity to come directly and work for the highest ranking NCO on the post. And that Monday, when I came in the office to work for him, he asked me the second question that changed my life. He says, Will, Mo, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Let's start with the end in mind. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I said, Sergeant Major, I don't know. I'm 18 years old. I never thought I'd even make it to 18 years old. So I've never thought past a day in my life. He says, well, I want you to go home and I want you to think about it. And in a couple of days, I want you to have an answer for me. I come back in a couple of days and I said, Sergeant Major, I came up with two things. Number one, I want to be the best soldier I can be. And number two, I want to get my education. I want to get my education. I want to go to college. He says, if that's what you really want to do, I can help you with that. He says, I'm going to team you up with Sergeant First Class Sane, and he's going to be your mentor. He's going to be your mentor. And he's going to help you get enrolled in college, and he's going to help you become an excellent soldier. And as I think back to this time, I didn't have all of this language that we're going to use today: vision, mentorship. I didn't have all this language, but as I look back over my life, that's exactly what was happening. I was now starting with the end in mind. So you got to start with the end in mind. You got to know where you want to go. You got to know where you want to end up, because it all starts in the mind. And then you need mentors, right? You need people that have gone before you, that can be a model for you. So Sergeant First Class Sane was a model for me as a young private. I now saw someone that was successful in the system. Now, this is so important. I saw someone successful in the system that I wanted to be successful in. So I was in the military. I needed to find someone in the military. And what was very profound, and I need to share this, what was very profound was that Command Sergeant Major Babs was an African American man. Sergeant First Class Sane was an African American man. And this is why it was so important. This is the only reason why I bring it up, because for me, a kid like me, a person like me, I needed all excuses removed. In that moment, if it was a Caucasian person, a Latino person, an Asian person telling me I could be successful in the system, I probably wouldn't believe them. But because I saw someone who looked like me, who came from a similar situation like me, I said, I could do it. I could do it. And for me, all throughout my life, that has been one of the key components to my success. I always find a mentor, I always find a model that looks like me, that has done something that I want to do at the level that I want to do it. And so when they begin to mentor me, I got enrolled in college. And one of my first classes that I took in college was a speech class, speech 101. And inside this class, a lady, after she heard me speak, her name was Miss Copeland. After she heard me speak for the first time in class, she says, Will, you got something. This is what you were born to do. You got something. And the next class, she bought me this book, and it was called um, African American African American Motivation, and it was by a gentleman by the name of Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. And I started reading this book. It was the first time I probably outside of high school read a book just to be reading. And I started reading this book by Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. And in front of the book, he had his other books listed. He had wrote another book called Think and Grow Rich, a Black Choice. Think and Grow Rich, a Black Choice. And I remember getting those two books, reading those two books, and literally being blown away at Black excellence. Because up until this time, even though in my neighborhood I did see teachers that were Black, I did see politicians, I didn't really see people that looked like me that were wealthy outside of sports and entertainment. And because I didn't play sports. I wasn't in entertainment. I didn't see a pathway. I didn't see a bridge. I didn't see a path for me to become wealthy. But now, inside these books, I'm starting to read about John H. Johnson. I'm starting to read about Earl Graves. And then the game changer was I came across a man by the name of Reginald F. Lewis. And he wrote a book, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? And Reginald F. Lewis was the first African American to do a leverage buyout to buy $1 billion company. Marcella, this was the game changer for me, because now I had a blueprint of someone who didn't dribble a basketball, didn't run with a football, didn't hit a baseball, didn't rap, wasn't in the movies. He did it strictly with his mind and his intellect around business. I now had a blueprint. I had a picture. I'll never forget. I read that book, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun, from front to cover, maybe 8 to 10 times. I modeled everything from waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning, where how he would have his schedule pinned out. I didn't even have a schedule that required me to wake up at 4 a.m., but he woke up at 4 a.m. So I said, I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m. This is what he do. This is what I'm going to do. And he became a model. And this is where my legacy fire really started to burn, because I saw what he was able to do, not only from his business perspective, but from a legacy perspective of what he did for his wife Loda and his two daughters, and the legacy. As I was reading his book, unfortunately, Reginald F. Lewis died at the age of 50. So by the time I read his book, he had already died. Imagine if he would have never left his legacy in word form, then a young kid from Compton like me probably would have never been inspired.
Oh, wow, wow. Oh my goodness. I mean, I can go so many places based off of what you just said. Wow. First of all, Reginald, I'm in Maryland, so Baltimore
Oh,
zone.
oh, I'm jealous. You get to go to the museum. I'm jealous.
Exactly, exactly. So I knew you were going to go there when you list off. I was like, I know he's going to mention Reginald because you cannot not mention Reginald. So that is wonderful. I picked up so many things. I'm going to touch briefly on how you emphasize the need for representation. And we use this word in various ways. I stick to it regularly, religiously, specifically because I love working with children. I've had a youth organization, I've raised kids, and I work with mindset as well. And I understand how important it is for most people to be able to see what they want, to see themselves in something. And you brought up a very important point, and that was to eliminate all excuses. That part, because I don't think most people really recognize how easy we come up with excuses for not doing
Mhm.
something, how convenient it is to come up with excuses. We look for it. We're programmed that way. That our brain is created for one reason. Well, it's designed for one reason to
Yeah,
keep us safe, as they say,
it's
right?
safe.
It
Hmm.
keeps us safe, and it shows up. That safety shows up in many ways, and one of those is excuses. So when you were able to recognize that, oh, wait a minute, looking back, I'm sure at the time you weren't recognizing that, but in hindsight, you're able to say, wow, okay. First of all, plotting out your journey is amazing, but saying that, oh, wait a minute, I needed to see that these Black leaders, because if I did not, you probably would not be where you are today. And that's something wonderful that you point out that I want to emphasize. And then I love how you talked about the disruptors in your life. And I really want the listeners to get a bit more about that, because it's all about the journey, right? I always say I'm a journey girl. I love the journey. The end, the goals, that's wonderful and all, but I am here to squeeze every ounce of wisdom out of the journey that I am in, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I want to learn from it all. So, you being able to identify these disruptors, can you tell me how our listeners could shift their minds so that as they're going through challenging times, financially, relationship, all of it, but as they're going through times in their life, that they can they can possibly spot the disruptors that are actually there to guide them, the things that can pop up in their life that they can learn from. Can you tell me how you went through that process of being able to point out these elements in your journey and these disruptors, and being able to determine, wait a minute, I needed this for this reason.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great distinction. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
So let me share this framework that I use for personally for myself and the clients that I work with. And I call it the 4 P's of transformation, 4 P's of transformation. And we have to understand that each of us are telling ourselves on a daily basis, we're telling ourselves a story. This record is playing in our head. They're lyrics, right? And there's a principle that says, faith comes by hearing. Faith comes by hearing. What that really means is that belief comes by hearing. Foundation comes by hearing. So whatever you're constantly hearing, whatever you're constantly telling yourself is establishing your belief. So for years growing up, I heard you're from Compton, California, worst city in America. You're going to end up just like your dad. You're an at risk kid. You're not going to make it until your 18th birthday. If you do make it to your 18th birthday, you're probably going to end up in jail. And so I started to repeat this to myself. I live from a standpoint of I have nothing to live for. So this is why I did dangerous things. This is why I did criminal things, because I had nothing to live for. I told myself, once again, faith comes by hearing. Growing up, one of my favorite rappers was Tupac, and he had a song that said, "To live and die in L.A." To live and die in LA. And so that was my mantra. I'm going to live and die in LA. So if you ask me, Will, come to Maryland, I would say, for what? I'm from LA. It ain't nothing else out there besides LA. Why would I want to be anywhere except LA? I'm about to live and die in LA. This was the story. That was my identity. That was my identity. So I had to learn that I had to change the music. I had to change the song that was playing in my mind. And when I talk about this disruptor, Corey came as a first disruptor, right? As a second disruptor after the judge, after he says, listen, tell me what you want to do with your life. Tell me, because I had no clue what I wanted to do in my life. And so these questions begin to change my perspective, right? Begin to change my perspective. And so when I think about the 4 P's, the first one is the places. I want you to take inventory of the places that you go. And when I say places, I'm talking about literal places, physical places, and mental places as well. And so, one of the places that many people find themselves is on the couch watching TV. That's a place, right? And what is that television doing? It's telling you a vision. It's telling you a vision, television. It's telling you a vision. And the more you begin to intake that, oh, it begins to shape. Oh, this is what the world is like. So, this, you can watch a particular channel and a particular news station, and they say, this is our vision of the world. This is our vision of the world. And the more you begin to watch it, that becomes your vision. Then you can talk to someone else that's watching another channel, and that channel is telling them, no, this is the world. And so now you see two people with two opposing, right, visions, because they're taking in different information. So the first thing I learned was I had to start looking at the places I was showing up. The places I was showing up, because the places I showed up leads us to number two, are the people that I interacted with. The people that I interacted with. The people I interacted with determined the conversations that I was having. And so I remember early on in the military, before I started working for the sergeant major, I was hanging around with soldiers that was my same rank. And this is, don't miss this, people. They were my same rank. What I mean by rank, same level, same mindset, same vision. So, you know what we wanted to do every week? We wanted to go to the club every week. That's what we wanted to do. At that rank, as a private PFC specialist, we wanted to go to the club every week. When I started working for the sergeant major, watch this, my place changed. My duty place changed, right? I'm now at the headquarters. I'm working at the battalion. Because I'm now at the battalion, I'm around different people. You know what these people were talking about? Hey, man, what's your portfolio look like? What's your investments look like? Hey man, what's your 3, 5 year plan from now? How long are you going to be in the military? How are you going to allow the military to set you up for success? What's your legacy pregame, right? Because I was in a different place, I'm now interacting with different people. Now, when you interact with different people and get different conversation, that leads us to number three, your philosophy changes. Your philosophy changes. Remember, I came in thinking to live and die in LA. I was hating Germany. I was like, man, I hate Germany. I need to get back to LA, man. I need to get back to the streets. I need to get back to my boys, man. This is whack, right? But now my philosophy started to change. Wait a minute, Will. You're in a whole different country. You can travel now. You can see something different now. You can see something different now. My philosophy about the world was, oh, this is an amazing world filled with amazing people. I should see how much of the world I can see and how many people I can meet in the world. And then the fourth P, once your philosophy changes, your practices change, your habits, your routines. Once your habits and your routines change, your results change. And so when my friends were going to the club, I was going to class. When my friends were buying shoes and wasting their money, I was getting stocks. I was getting mutual funds. And so now my whole practices change. And once my practices change, that was the game changer because now I had different results. I started getting promoted a lot faster. I saw the people that I started with, we were on the same rank, the same level. And now I was getting promoted faster than them. And these four P's have been my guiding principles over the last 30 years. I'm always checking the places that I go. I'm always checking the people that I interact with. I'm always checking my mindset, my philosophy, because once again, I'm going to keep saying this, as a person thinks, so is he. And when I came across that principle, as a person thinks, this was what powerful to me. Not as a person possess, because most people say, I'll do it, I'll be it when I get it. But the principle says you won't even get it until you think it. I became a millionaire long before it was in my checking account. It was in my brain account long before it was in my checking account. It didn't come to my checking account until it got to my brain account. And let me prove this to you. There's people that play the lottery all the time. And then there's people who win the lottery. But then what does the statistics say? 87% of people who play the lottery and win the lottery, they end up within 3 to 5 years losing all the money. Why? Because they weren't millionaires in their mind. They weren't millionaires in their mind. And so even though they had millions, their mind was broke. Even though they had millions, their mind was poor. So even though they had it, they couldn't keep it because of their mindset. And then my practices. Number four, my practices over that period of time. I'm a stickler for routines. I'm a stickler for daily habits. I have this thing that I call my 10 before 10. 10 things that I have to do every single day to ensure that I have an amazing day. And I do it before 10 a.m. because what I found out, Marcella, emergencies don't like to happen before 12. I've noticed over time, emergencies don't happen before 12 o'clock. And so I do everything that I need to, that's important to me before 10 a.m. And then whatever happens after that, at least I know the most important things that I needed to accomplish have already been done. And now we can address these other issues.
Mm. Yeah, God, that's so good. I love that. Emergencies don't happen before the time. I love that. I'm gonna have to remember that one. Because I too, I love waking up early as well and getting things done. There's just something about when the world feels like it's still sleeping
Mhm.
and you're going, there's clarity of mind that happens in that time frame. So I'm with you on that. Oh my goodness. Okay. So, I could really talk to you for hours, but I cannot end this conversation without tapping into how you operate in these leadership aspects because there's so much you do with leadership. And I'm really hoping the listeners are simply just hearing it through your story. That was my desire. We don't even need to touch on specific things. What you've shared is so powerful. And you've covered a range of topics in what you've shared in your experiences. But I have to take it home in your family life because I've seen, obviously at a distance,
Mhm.
how much your family means to you and your legacy leadership and how it shows up there. So there is I'm not sure if it was a post, but I do know we've talked about having certain legacy conversations. In one of our conversations, you talked about, those dinner tape, those, dinner conversations and the importance of that because the legacy that you're building isn't just for you. Like I said, you're married, you have a daughter, you have a grandchild, and I believe another one on the way, right? or just
Another
the
one
one?
on the way.
Another
Yep,
way.
another one
Plug
on
it
the
all.
way.
So going back to beginning with the end in mind,
Mhm.
can you share with our listeners just some practical ways that families can begin creating multi-generational conversations that pass down wisdom along with wealth, but just bringing it all together, bringing it back home.
Yeah, I know you're a framework person, and I know this is the Legacy Pregame Podcast. So let's put a bow around it. So there's five foundational things that I think about. It's faith, it's foundation, it's family, it's fun, and it's finances. So if you have that base, so whatever that means to you, for me, faith is my spiritual journey. For me, I'm a believer, I'm a Christian. So that's my foundation. I tell people this all the time. I don't care what you believe, just believe what you believe. I don't care what you believe, just believe what you believe. For me, I'm settled. This is what I'm riding out with. I'm riding out with Christianity, come hell or high water, right or wrong. That's the belief I've chosen. That's what I'm riding out with. I don't care what you believe, fine and dandy with me, but just whatever you believe, believe what you believe. And so my faith is number one for me. Then foundation, this is going to be a little bit interesting. So foundation for me represents you. It represents you. A lot of people will put family second, but what I've learned, if you don't put yourself first, right? After your faith, you're not going to be any good for your family. Whenever you're on an airplane, the first thing they say is put your mask on first. The Bible says it like this: love your neighbor as yourself. And so if you don't love self first, it's going to be difficult to love anybody else, right? I love me to life. So I forgive myself easy. I don't beat up myself. And because I can forgive myself easy, I can forgive you. Because I don't beat up myself when I make mistakes, I'm not going to beat you up when you make mistakes, because I love me, right? So that's foundation. Then family, right? Family, however you consider your family, your friends, those closest to you, let that be an anchor. And then fun. When I talk about fun, I mean your lifestyle. You get to choose. I call it living from your core. How do you want to experience this world? There's over 190 different countries in this world, 8 billion people. How do you want to experience it? How do you want to take advantage of it? And then number five is finances. Finances are very important. I don't care where you live in the world. I don't care what your belief is. I don't care what your politics is. You're going to need some money. So money is important. My mentor, we talked about him earlier, Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. He'll let you know, if you talk about the wealth tree, that money is the least last thing on that wealth tree, but it is very important, right? It's various. I heard a quote one time, it's not everything, but it's right up there with oxygen, right? So you need money. And so my wife and I, when we first got together, my wife and I are both from Southern California, both she's raised by her single mother. I was initially raised by my grandmother, and then lived with my single mother. So when we got married, we didn't really have a picture, right? All we had was, talking about models again, all we had was the Cosby Show. That was our motto. That was our motto, because we didn't have it growing up in our homes. I didn't have uncles or things like that modeled marriage. I didn't have a father that modeled marriage or anything like that. She didn't have that on her side. So we kind of created, starting with the end in mind. We said, okay, if we're going to get together, we're going to make a commitment that when we have children, our children are going to be raised in a two-parent home. And I'll tell you this was so important, because in a marriage, your marriage goes through ebbs and flows. It goes through ups and downs. Watch this, you need a vision that takes you past love, because you're not going to always be in love. So when you fall out of love, what keeps you together? For me and my wife, it was the vision. Like, even though I'm mad at you and you mad at me, we got this vision. And so we held on to the vision even when we didn't want to hold on to each other. And then the vision allowed us to stay together long enough until we could fall back in love again, right? And so we had this vision that we wanted to create, and start this legacy. I would often tell my children, what me and your mom are trying to do hasn't been done in our immediate family in 100 years. My grandfather and my grandmother split up. Her grandfather and her grandmother split up. Neither one of our mothers had ever been married. We don't necessarily know the story of our great great, but what we were trying to do in our immediate family of having a two-parent home hadn't been done in generations. And so that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to give them that foundation. We wanted to give them that platform that they were going to. Statistics tell you two-parent homes, far better for the kids when they're growing up. So that's what we wanted to provide. What you mentioned earlier was we came up with this thing that said, okay, the dinner table is going to be our time of connection, our time of information. So the dinner table. And so if you're listening out there and you have kids, I just want you to think about this from the time they're 5 to the time they're 15. That gives you a 10-year period. If you are intentional about making the dinner table a place of connection, if you do it 300 times a year, after 10 years, that's 3,000 opportunities that you have to talk to them, communicate to them, let them know what the family game plan is, let them know what legacy means to you, let them know what the family principles are. Our family has a family crest. And so we made it a thing. We made, legacy a thing. You are a Moreland. That means something. That means something. When you decide to get married, they're not just marrying you, they're marrying into this legacy. And so I would always tell my daughter is the oldest, I would always say to her, you see what you have on this side with your mom and dad. I want you to go in a partner and try to reproduce that. Go and try to reproduce that. You see what we got. We don't have chaos over here. We got peace over here. We got tranquility over here. We got love. Don't go get no knucklehead. Don't mess this up. Don't mess this foundation up. And so my daughter, when she got married, and the gentleman that she selected an amazing gentleman, comes from a two-parent home. His father was in the military, just retired after 32 years. His mom was in medical services, and so she duplicated, right? So now, when we had our first grandchild, it was the most amazing thing, because for the first time, I'm seeing a baby that is surrounded by two parents, two grandparents on both sides. So now that baby has four adults that love that baby, that's thinking about that baby's future, right? Outside of that, now you still have my mom, you still have my wife's mom on their side. They still, so my granddaughter right now has eight grandparents. She has eight grandparents in her life, eight adults who love her, care about her, thinking about her, setting aside money for her right now. The foundation, the legacy that she has is phenomenal. We're expecting our grandson in January. So I can't wait to see what they do with these platforms, right? What they do with these foundations. My daughter, I want to mention this, my daughter, because we've been having these conversations with her about wealth, about legacy. She purchased her first home at the age of 20. At the age of 20, because we had been talking to her. When she left, I said, Carrie, you have the blueprint, you have the framework. By the time you're 25, there's not a reason you shouldn't be a net worth millionaire, because you should be on your third home by that time. And because of net worth, you own three homes at minimum 300K, you'll have $1 million worth of net worth in America with a good credit score and three homes net worth of 1 million. You can have anything you want in this world, right? And so for me, that's been our blueprint. That's been our game plan. So those five things for us: your faith. What is your faith? Believe what you say you believe, and then foundation. Make sure you're taking care of yourself spiritually, mentally, physically, all that type of stuff, and then your family, setting them up for success, and then fun. What's fun for you? How do you want to live this life? And then your finances, having a game plan, starting with the end in mind. And then let me say this, because this show is geared toward first generation, yep, you're going to have to make the sacrifice. You're going to have to make the sacrifice. My wife and I, we had to sacrifice. There are things we could have done that we did not do because, for me, the principle says a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And so, yeah, I can get the Bentley, but is my grandson's legacy set up yet? Yeah, we can go get that house, but is my granddaughter's legacy set up? Is she going to have a different platform, or do I just want to ball out for you? Do I just want to show it off for the gram, but then they suffer? And so, in the back of me, I have a baton that reminds me that, Will, you're supposed to pass it forward. That everything you've done, everything that you've accomplished, it needs to go forward. And so I'm always thinking forward. What can we do to move the family forward? So every month, we have a family meeting. We all meet together. We all share what's going on in your life. How can the family support you? What are you struggling with? What are you celebrating? And so, just like a regular business, we have business meetings. And so that's how we've kind of structured our family, and that's what's working for us.
My goodness, Dr. Will. Listeners, I hope you are hearing this man, because Dr. Will is saying everything that this show is about, everything that Mark and I work for, everything that our Family Legacy Experience program is about. Everything from the family crest, which we've taken our clients through the process of creating family crest. I wear mine all the time, to the monthly family conversations that involve 4 generations for us, to I mean, to the financial conversations, even to the pillars. We have 4 pillars: finance, fitness, family, and faith. So the fitness part's mental, physical. That's kind of
Yeah.
like the foundation for you. What you mentioned about the foundation. So it's just that there has to be these steps, this structure. I want the listeners to hear the intentionality about everything that Dr. Will, that you are talking about, sir.
Yeah.
Listeners, do not miss this, because he didn't wing it. Nothing here, nothing that you see today. And I'm going to have him share where you can locate him, where you can find him. But there is nothing about Dr. Will Moreland that was just plain old luck. There are opportunities with some of those disruptors. You were fortunate enough to get a judge
Mhm.
that gave you an opportunity. You could have landed in the wrong courtroom. So there were opportunities in which one could categorize as lucky. However, you have to hear the intentionality behind so many of the decisions that were made in his life. And I don't want that to be overlooked. So I'm going to, just kind of wind it up here, because this conversation was so insightful. It fueled me. And I really hope the listeners will continue to learn and grow through your wisdom, which is why I really want to give them an opportunity to find you. So please share where they can connect with you. If you have any upcoming projects, anything
Yeah.
going on that you would like to share, I just want to give you an opportunity now to share that.
And because you mentioned it, just let me please share this, because I don't want them to miss it. Marcella, in my life, it has happened over time. It hasn't happened overnight, because I don't want one of the reasons why I take these invitations to be on podcasts is because I understand the importance of the conversation, and I understand the importance of exposure. And I want to be just one of the cogs in the puzzle that people can look to say, man, if he did it, I can do it, because you actually can. Now, it starts with a plan, though, and being intentional, right? And so some of the things that you heard us talk about today, just say to yourself, man, what can I start right now? Because a lot of times, you said it earlier, we talk ourselves out of success. Well, Marcella, Will, I don't have the money you guys have. That's why you guys can do this. No, we didn't start like this, but we started with what we had, right? You can start with a table conversation. You can say, you know what, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, we're gonna all eat dinner. Now it's gonna be uncomfortable. Mom, Dad, oh man, this is put the phones down. We're gonna put the phones down. No one's looking at their phone. And we got teenagers. We know what teenagers are like. We had to, well, you can huff and puff, because I knew. And one of the greatest joys that we had, my daughter, after 2 months of being at the house, she called me and my wife, and she said, thank you. And we're like, what are you talking about? She
Mm.
says, I see it. I see everything you guys were talking about. I now see the difference. I'm
Mhm.
talking to other people my age. I'm talking to other people, and I see everything you guys were talking about. So even when they act like they're not absorbing it, they are. And more than they're observing it. They're observing it, right? And so for
Mhm.
my wife, I mean, for my daughter, her getting married, on both sides, they're looking at marriages. His parents have been married for 30 plus years. So they're looking at 30 plus marriages. And so they have a blueprint. I talked to my son in law and I say, listen, don't be ignorant, don't be stupid. You got two men in your life that have been there, done that. Call us, right? We got to be intentional about it. It's uncomfortable for him. It's uncomfortable for men, right? And so I force him. You know, I tease him. I always ask my daughter. I say, "Hey, ask Alexander, is he alive?" And what? What do you mean? Oh, because I haven't got a call from him. I haven't got a text from him. I didn't know if he was still alive, right? And so I'm intentional about building a relationship with
Yes.
him. I'm intentional about making sure my daughter has the best husband possible. I'm not just leaving it to chance. I'm not leaving it to chance. My wife talks to my
Mhm.
daughter every day. She's not leaving it to chance. And so that word about being intentional, and then I'll add this other word, just be consistent. So $5 a week, $5 a month. Just get consistent with saving that. Get consistent with saving that. Why? Because now you start to tell your mind and your subconscious, I'm a saver. See, the subconscious doesn't matter the amount. It doesn't care about the amount. It doesn't care if it's $5 or $500 or $5,000. It just cares about the action. And when you can start changing the story, right? From being a spender to a saver to an investor. That's all these actions do. They change the conversation with yourself, right? I work out every day. That may mean you just walk the block and walk back home. But what you're telling your subconscious is, see, you start saying, oh, but I didn't do 2 miles. I didn't do 5 miles. The subconscious doesn't care about that. What you want to frame for yourself is, I work out every day. I started out one push up. Did I have to tell my ego, oh man, come on, you can do more? But I knew if I did more, I wouldn't be consistent. I could do 35 right now, but I wasn't going to do 35 tomorrow. I wasn't going to do 35 the next. But if I, one, do one push up. After this week, I'm going to add two more. Now, next week, I'm doing three. Next week, I'm going to add two more. Now I'm doing five. Now I can do 50. If I would have started out doing 50, I would have been worn out. I wouldn't have came back to the game and I would have quit. So please be intentional, be consistent. I would love to connect with you. At Dr. Will Speaks is my social media handle everywhere across the board. At Dr. Will Speaks on Instagram, everywhere on TikTok, on Facebook. Just look up at Dr. Will Speaks, or drwillspeaks.com is also my website. I would love to hear your legacy pregame game plan and just stay connected with you as we're on this legacy journey together.
Whew. I thank you for adding that piece at the end there about intentionality and consistency. Oh, I can really go into that with you, but we really
We
could
got
be
to
on
do
here
this
for another
again. We
3
got to do
hours.
this again.
Absolutely, I'm bringing you back because there's just countless information that we can exchange here with our listeners. And if you could just understand how my mind is churning right now. I'm trying to control it, but I get very excited. Growth is one of my core values. And so, any type of knowledge, when I get to have conversations with individuals like you, I am in my happy place. Like this is what it's all about for me. So thank you so much for just gracing me and our listeners with this fountain of information. Before I let you go, I want to ask you a question, or really just a statement that we ask all our guests to complete this sentence. So I'm going to go ahead and say the sentence, and I'm going to have you repeat it and complete it. Okay. So your sentence is, I am Dr. Will Moreland, and this is the legacy that I am living and leaving in the world.
I am Dr. Will Moreland, and this is the legacy I am leaving and leading in the world. And it's simply just to be kind, just to be kind to my neighbor, just to be kind to myself, and just to be kind to humanity. That's the legacy that I want to leave and be known for. That he was kind to himself, he was kind to his neighbors, and he was kind to humanity.
I love that. It's such a perfect way to end. Thank you, Dr. Will. You are truly kind. You are humble. Again, you leave everyone you meet, and again, I can't speak for everyone, but you just know. Some things you just know when you meet someone. And I have no doubt that everyone that experiences you will feel your kindness, which is a reflection of God's love. And that's what I see and hear from you. So I am very grateful to have you on the show. Thank you for being here.
Once again, thank you for having me.
Listeners, if today's conversation sparks something for you as it did for me, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And I know there are a lot of people in your life that need to hear it. So do not forget to subscribe and visit legacypregamepodcast.com to download your free Legacy Clarity workbook that will continue to guide you through our journey and start building a blueprint for your next move. Until next time, live well, build wisely, and prepare with purpose.